ShipperHQ, a powerful solution for e-commerce merchants that gives you all the shipping tools you need to compete with the other guys, like the most accurate shipping rates and all the options your customers have come to expect at checkout. Leave it to ShipperHQ to handle all the complex calculations behind the scenes. While your customer's checkout experience remains seamless, ShipperHQ lets you manage everything in one place, which means you can avoid expensive technical or management overhead and focus on what you do best. ShipperHQ.
Seriously, do I need to make an introduction for Karen Baker? Well, there's one provided here, so I'm obligated to read it. But if you don't know who Karen is, then welcome to the Magento community, and I hope your first Magento conference has been a good one. Karen is the CEO and founder of ShipperHQ, the leading platform for storefront shipping rate management. With over 20 years of business experience in technology, Karen has firsthand expertise built from dealing with the shipping struggles of many thousands of retailers since 2008. Jump in the chat right now and give a warm welcome to Karen Baker.
Thanks very much, TJ. I appreciate you being there, man. And it's been one hell of a week for me. One day I'll write the story about this week, and I think a lot of people will find it pretty interesting. But so I'm pleased to finally be here with these slides and showing you some of our findings. What I'm going to talk about today is really what's been going on and what we've seen in terms of traffic at ShipperHQ since the pandemic hit. We think it makes a pretty interesting reading, and I hope you do too. So let's crack on with it. You know, we're all humans and we're all kind of surviving through this. And I would say that our industry, as I think most of you know, has been extremely lucky in 2020 and compared to a lot of other industries. And, you know, these slides talk a lot about the opportunity, but I think what we have to remember in all of this, that there's the real people underneath it. And as much as we can all get excited about technology and what's going on and the e-commerce revolution and everything else, like I'm very conscious, you know, of the fact that, you know, that there is people suffering, there's businesses that have gone bust and everything else. So I just want to kind of put that into the context of how I'm going to be talking about this stuff, because there's always in the back of our mind, you know, what's actually going on the ground and the impact is especially on bricks and mortars and stuff like that. But, you know, like I put this in my Meet Magento Indonesia slide, in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity, and it's true. And you'll see through these slides, you know, just how merchants are changing, how they're working and really getting innovative. And the world is changing, right? And one of the great things about, I think, human beings in general is that we adapt and we survive, and in some cases we thrive. And that's astonishing to watch, especially in such a short time period. And it is something that we should be celebrating, their ability to do that. Because I'm sure, like you, there's been times in this journey where we've just sat there in despair and just wondered what's next, right? So let's look at some stats. I mean, if you look online traffic, you know, it's up massively, 31% up. Like, what I find kind of interesting is bricks and mortar is still doing some business, right? Like, it's down, but you know, this is still trading. And I went to the mall back in probably about May time, over here in Austin, in Texas, and it was dead, completely dead. And I was like, these malls are going to die. And I'm not sure, I still don't think that, but I went to the malls a couple of weeks ago, and I would say they were busier than I remember them before the pandemic. So I don't know if that's just because I've got used to so much quiet, and it's kind of a shock to see lots of people, or whether or not they are actually busier, but that's certainly what we're seeing. So, you know, people are getting out and about, and the traffic that I'm looking at, just so everybody's aware, like goes across the ShipperHQ business. This is industry data, but it goes across the business of ShipperHQ, which is worldwide, but we mainly focus in US, UK, and Australia. So when you see our numbers, just bear that in mind. So, you know, Asia and places like that, when we show our figures, we're not really reflecting what's happening there. And a lot of our business is in the US. But I just wanted to talk to what people are saying, right? So UPS, like, published their results this week. Like, their share price is up massively. All of the logistics providers are up. Shipping is hot topic right now. There's a lot of talk about Shippergeddon and how we're going to cope over Black Friday. But you know, UPS is seeing a massive move to online retail. They're saying 20%, of all US retail. I mean, that's crazy. Their grand volume is up. These guys are trying to put more and more trucks in service, more people in service. I mean, they're living Black Friday, traffic each month, and I hope you'll see that in our data as well. Amazon is another one that just announced their results. Their growth up 30%. People are shopping earlier this year. Everybody's aware of supply chain issues. It's going to happen. Like, if you haven't started doing your Christmas shopping, take it from me, get on with it. Like, everywhere, from top to bottom, small stores all the way up to big stores. There are big, massive problems going on in supply chain, and the shipping side as well. Them just coping with a level of traffic is going to be difficult. So you're going to see delays, and I think you'll see, I mean, you already are, increased rates, and that's going to get pushed down to the consumer on the shipping side. But everything's growing in e-commerce space. So let's come down into ShipperHQ, right? Because this is the data that we have ourselves, right? So there's all these reports and people say stuff, and it's, what do you believe, right? And I'm a big believer in, I want to see my data, right? Like, what do I show? Like, that's the truth, right? The reality is we're seeing 100% continued growth in e-commerce across the board. This change is not going away, is what we're seeing. It's very, very busy. There are some suffering verticals, and I'll dig into some of these around the B2B side a little bit. But even there, we're seeing some improvements, like alcohol, books, music, hobbies, major shifts going on, and interesting to see how that plays out over the year. And as I said before, the supply chain is definitely affecting, in some cases, the ability of the store to sell. And it's not just a fulfillment problem; it's a selling problem. So what did we look at? We looked at, we took all of our data from last November around Black Friday, 2-week period. And then the other thing that we looked at was January, 2-week period in January, which we thought was a kind of typical time of the year, right? Like, we were looking at what was going on in 2020 normally. And there honestly wasn't much of a window, because you get into Valentine's Day, which affects things, and obviously the start of the year. And it's probably worth me saying, just to give a bit of a backstory on ShipperHQ, when the pandemic hit, we started looking at this data straight away, because we was actually trying to work out how to run our business. And we wanted to know what was going on with our customers, because, we were worried, right? Like everybody, about, are we going to survive, right? Are our customers going to survive? So we were trawling all over this data, and looking at it and seeing what was going on and where the kind of trends were happening. And then we just, we got really busy. So like everybody else, so we've just come back to this data now and just been going through it. But this data is completely unpublished, so everybody understands that. We only took sites that were with us in November and in January and February. So any new sites or new site launches, we took out the data to normalize it, just to make that clear. So here's some data for you. I thought I'd start with alcohol, because that's my favorite subject, even though I haven't been drinking for the last 3 months very much. I've had about 8 or 10 pints. And I thought the headline was great, so I grabbed that one. Look, we're spending more on alcohol online. Simple as that. We're going and buying from sites, wine sites, liquor sites, specialist sites that are selling stuff, or general marketplaces. So we're seeing consistently, it's up. And it's interesting to me how, to start off with, people were buying it a little bit. Yeah, we had to get inside, right? But then it seemed like we made a hobby of this one. And we've calmed down a little bit, but it's going back up again. So really interesting. I don't think that that's a normal year. And then on the right-hand side, what you see there is, I just took one site, and this was a marketplace. And it just really shows you how they got impacted at the start. And you can just imagine the impact on that merchant of trying to deal with that level of rising traffic. And I think that also speaks to the great opportunity that there is within the Magento ecosystem to be able to help these merchants. They needed our help, and I had, like, on ShipperHQ, all of our staff, every single member of our staff moved to operational during March and April in order to service our staff. And I'm sure that many of the agencies and people like that here will know that we all had to go full throttle just to go and help these merchants. And it's a testament, I think, to the industry that we managed to keep everybody moving and react to this extreme change that went on. So yeah, moving on from alcohol, tobacco, right? Like CBD. CBD is pretty crazy, I think. Consistently going up. That's clearly a real growth area. People buying online as well, and dealing with the shipping issues around that, which is kind of, you know, they're not easy, right? And the headline I like as well. I don't smoke weed. Just to be clear, I think I'm bright enough as it is. The tobacco side looks like. I could relate to this one a little bit. Looks like we all went crazy and in despair for a while, and then we decided maybe we need to cut down. But you know, now with the election coming up, maybe we're back in despair again. Books and music. Yeah, we kind of leveled our data out here. We had some outliers that kind of changed our data, and when we leveled that out, our numbers come down a bit because we were actually showing like over 400% during the summer. Clearly people are, you know, pivoting to this and using this as a form of escape, and I personally think that's a good thing. I know I've done it as well. So that to me is pretty interesting. There's a ton of opportunity in my mind in books and music, and we're seeing some of our clients really get on board, especially around the swag side of kind of bringing that up and up and up. Yeah, gym and fitness is a really interesting one. Like sharp lift, right? Gym's shut. Okay, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go and buy all this stuff. And you know, consistently, like over 100%, you know, like they're doing double the traffic, right? Consistently. You saw it come down, right? Gyms started opening up a little bit, right? I suspect people got tired or people bought the stuff that they needed, right? So it slowed it down a little bit. But I think also, like, if you look at the right-hand side, that's a single customer that I just picked out. There's been real supply chain issues there. People are struggling to buy stuff, especially coming over from China. I think that there's a lot of people buying, there's a very few amount of people buying all the stock, and that's causing problems. And this spike that you see there, I suspect is where this particular supplier basically got a load of stock in. And there was massive demand for it. But then, you know, if they can't keep that stock moving, then that's going to cause them problems. Me personally, I started biking this year, and I know I had extreme trouble getting a hold of a bike. And even now, I've been waiting 4 months for a bike that I bought from the UK, and you know, just for them to get around to building it. So there's some real issues around here around manufacturing and supply chain side. But this is sustained change. This is an outdoor store, which I thought was a really interesting one to show. I mean, you just see how it just went crazy. Everybody got outside. It looks like people are getting inside right now. Like, I think that this is in part seasonal, but it's an interesting trend to show that. Let's talk about health and beauty. What are we doing there? Like, me, not very much right now. I'm doing the food side, I'm doing not too bad, but the beauty and cosmetics, not so great. It's food and nutrition's going up, and you know, I know myself, moved to Instacart, right? Trying not to go out too much, buying stuff online. We're looking at specialist stores, like we're seeing in the kind of, if you go to cheese and wine, meat, butchery, into the seafood area, into the international area, all of those businesses on ShipperHQ are absolutely booming, like, and having to transition very, very fast. If you can get your name out there, it seems to me like the stores that have some brand presence are able to really accelerate, but they're having to adjust how they're doing things. Like, you know, what are their shipping prices, right? Can people buy bundles? Are people putting a lot of this in their freezer? It's become, I think, the luxury market has become something of an escape for people. So that's what's really affected the traffic there. In my mind, around that segment, and again, there's just massive opportunity. Beauty and cosmetics honestly surprised me. It's not an area I'm massively in, as you can probably tell from this. But look, we're putting on makeup, girls. Like, that's where we're going. So that's a good thing. You can see it stalled at the start, right? But, you know, we're getting it done. And I would say that's a big transformational shift, maybe forever. How is that going to affect people like Macy's? You know, I think it's going to be interesting to play out because that's where we went to get all this stuff. And now I think we're really shifting to, you know, a massive buy online, right? It's not going to be all of it, but it's definitely a shift. And then a bit more on our image, apparel. We saw a lot of sites, especially over in the UK side, just go negative at the start of all this. Nobody really wants to buy clothes. Like, everybody was worrying about essentials. That's now coming back up. I think I haven't like gone into the data too much to see on the regional side of the October hike there, and whether or not that's related to more places getting back open again, or whether or not this is just to do with the holiday period that's affected it. But that hike at the end is kind of interesting and needs a deeper dive. The jewelry is the same. A lot of jewelry buying going on, like at the moment, went negative, but I mean, you wouldn't think people would be thinking about jewelry, but people are still buying it, right? So they can't get to the shops and they're buying it online, and there's a shift online, again, affecting the big retailers. The holiday period this goes up to early October, mid-October. I mean, people are buying for Christmas early, so they're taking the advice. This is a New York fashion retailer, just to give you a bit of an idea on what happened there. They, you know, yeah, no one cared. And then it's coming back up. Then we have at home, furniture. Big shift here. And I'm seeing this with just specific retailers. Hardware, like if you can get in that trade and set up as a merchant in hardware and home improvement, if you can go and get the stock, like you're going to sell it. It's hot all the way across the board. Right down to janitorial, like everywhere. People are doing their homes up. It's as simple as that. Like, we want something to do. We're finding hobbies and we're doing it, and we're spending, right? And we're shifting again offline to on. So this is a cards and stationery company. I thought it was an interesting one. Like we're starting to care about people, right? A lot, and we're sending stuff out to people. And that's not seasonal. Like that shift really started. Like, look at June. Like, it just went crazy, right? I mean, that company is coping with a lot right now. This particular company is actually bricks and mortar. So I know that they're suffering on that side, and I think it's great to see that they're managing such growth on this side. But it really shows how much these people really need to invest on technology in order to keep that going. And I'll reiterate, Magento really comes into play here because of its ability to be agile, extensible. You know, the fact that it can cope with real high volume. It's built for this kind of stuff, and just the Adobe aspect of it and the appeal factor of the brand side, I think as we go into 2021, it's going to be absolutely massive. All right, B2B. On the top right, I've got some PPE stuff. Some of the PPE stuff is interesting. We've got sites that are maybe in the kind of beauty space are now selling face masks. So when we go look at their traffic and we go, what's going on with them? We can see that the masks is what they're selling, right? The PPE, like I said, I don't want to talk about it too much because I think it's a little bit depressing, but like we've seen a recent spike. So I suspect that some of this is from the UK side and stuff like that. But, you know, people went crazy for that. A lot of the PPE traffic is hidden, I think, inside other traffic, and we tried to normalize that out. So these just reflects true PPE sites that are dedicated to that. We're definitely seeing, and this is not in our traffic as well, a massive uptick in brand new sites focused on that vertical. Anything to like hazardous, which is not on this, massively up. Like anything to do with protection gear is hot right now, really hot. Any of those sites, they get stock in, it's gone. Catering equipment, you can see that, you know, there was a restart of the US economy around May, June time. People started to retool, bring stuff up, and then we collapsed again. You know, that's not a great picture in my mind, but I'm really encouraged by the fact that it's starting to pick up once again now. How much of that is at home and people doing stuff for Christmas, I think is debatable, and it'd have to be drilled into more. The same on the education side, just a real you know, always up, right? Always up on education, but didn't really, you know, grow massively. Obviously, as term starts and everything else, you know, but this is significantly up in February, and it seems to be consistent. So there's a shift here as well in like people needing supplies online. Then we've got automotive. Like we all forgot about our cars, but we've opened them back up again, right? We're back on our hobbies and we're back at running, and that's accelerating. And you see it. I mean, in Austin, the traffic's up, so clearly people need parts, and people are doing stuff to you know, in the car front, RVs, etc., etc. The flowers and garden, like, you know, I find that pretty crazy how that's up and down. I do think some of that's seasonal. Yeah, this machinery one, you know, this is, you know, B2B side, right? And I think this is really encouraging. Like when this all first kicked off, B2B in my mind was the biggest area to suffer. And this one on the right shows you a company that I know laid staff off, and they really struggled. Like they had some bricks and mortar as well. And I think it's really encouraging to see them get their kind of act together. Everybody started picking up their businesses as well, and we're seeing them change and adapt to this online world that previously they weren't actually that much in, really, right? They were mainly offline, and we see these examples across the board. This is just one of them, but you can see that there's this combination of the world and society changing, the merchant changing and getting enabled, and just being able to bring that together and go. And I think I would suspect that there was some form of step change that happened around at May, June on their side as well that helped do this big increase in growth. So our overall findings, like this takes you back to Black Friday. We're basically running those weeks all the time. So the one on the left is Thanksgiving over those 2 weeks. The second one is February. Then we have a March one, and then we have like nearly now, like a month ago. I mean, merchants are running holiday traffic. They've been running it all year, and some of them have been running, and some. I'm skipping a couple of slides here. Okay, so I just want to give some observations, like on the Magento side. You know, it's where I heavily am focused, and the company is and we're cross-platform, just so everybody knows. But I wanted to just come in on the Magento side. There's a lot of stuff going on around the enterprise. The bigger sites are getting bigger. The headless is significant. I think that there's going to be massive demand for that. Creativity and thinking differently, putting out sites that are original, compelling. People are bored. People want to do stuff. That's still the case. Experience and emotional commerce. People want to buy it. They want to believe in the brand that they're buying from. The direct-to-consumer revolution is just accelerating like crazy. And we're seeing that across all platforms. It's a really interesting time, and it's up to us as you know, whether that's merchants, tech partners, agencies, etc., to come and get a hold of that. Merchants are embracing change, right? The ones that are doing that well, the ones that are agile, the ones that can adapt, the ones that have got the cash flow to do it, they're really excelling, and they're accelerating away from the pack, and that's fantastic to see. And in a lot of cases, those are Magento customers. At highest traffic on ShipperHQ by far is Magento community, and that's encouraging to see. The supply chain is everything, right? You know, this is here. It's here to stay. I don't see this going away, and all the reports say that as well. And that's it from me. I finished very aptly on I need a beer. So
I think we all need a beer at this point, but we have a few minutes for questions. Wait. I was just saying we have a few minutes for questions if anybody posts those. And I've got one to kind of prime it. Obviously, there are a lot of industries that are permanently changed, and the numbers will eventually normalize in some regards. Now, do you expect there'll be a new normal for most folks, or do you think any of these industries that are seeing huge increases will eventually be returning to somewhere around their 2019 levels?
We absolutely think that there is a new normal, which is at least 100% plus. Yes. For if you wanted to say broad across the board, we would say that the new normal is 100%, and we don't see that going backwards. We really don't. We think that and all of the reports that I've read, and I gave a different talk, which is where I cut some slides out, but there's behavioral changes here. People have got used to shopping online. We're shopping differently online. We're using things like micro moments where we're basically working and shopping, where as opposed to setting aside a time of day to shop. And we're browsing much more in a shopping capacity as we're working. Ads are getting better. No, this change is here to stay. I mean, I'm so certain of that. Yeah. So we got to build from now, and we got to adjust to this new normal, and then go, all right, now what? Because 2021, depending on how you deal with that as a merchant, I think you could really, nail it, honestly, like in terms of acceleration of growth. But you need to be very agile, very quick to adapt to the environment that's going on around you, and you need to get resources in to get yourself prepared for that.
All right, one question in the chat. Do you think the delta in online traffic / online shopping during Black Friday will be as huge as last year?
No, I don't. So I think we usually go 2-3x traffic around that time, like if we take it across the board, and then spikes during we've normalized some of that data so it can spike up 3-4x on the day. I just don't see it. I think people are buying earlier. The traffic's kind of showing that as well. And I also think that there's, people are not getting together, and there's supply chain issues, and it's a little bit like Groundhog Day at times. So I don't know that people are going to be celebrating as much. So you're seeing a lot of sales. Anybody that's got hot stuff, why would they put it on sale? I don't think you're going to see massive sales from some of these because there's just no point, right? They've already got supply chain issues. So I think that that's going to impact it as well. That's my feeling. I don't know. We'll see, right?
Yeah, we'll definitely find out here shortly. The next session, we're up against time here. The next session will begin in just a few moments. Again, the video will roll over here, but if you want to participate in the chat or ask questions on the next section, please return to the lobby, select your session, and I'll join you over there in just a few moments.